Cut the Check podcast, brought to you by Craft Farmer, bringing you weekly motivation, unmatched cultivation tech, and telling you some badass war stories along the way.
All right, welcome to Cut the Check with Craft Farmer, sponsored by Dank Mob, kings of quality control, the best weed out in the business right now. Make sure you check out Dank Mob on Instagram, Dank Mob on Telegram. Craft Farmer Under Canopy Lights coming out in January. Change your game, put some money in your pocket, elevate your bottom line. Today we have an awesome guest. I've been meaning to get him here for a while. We got Jerin from New Millennium Nutrients.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Here for the Emerald Cup.
Yep.
So it kind of worked out perfectly, to have you here, and super stoked to have you in the building.
Awesome. No, thank you very much for having me. Happy to be here, and yeah, man, you got a great spot here. So it's always fun to go to Santa Rosa.
Where'd you travel here from?
I came here from Colorado.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm based in Colorado. All the New Millennium stuff's there as well. Headquarters. We mix everything there. So yeah, it's nice, right in the middle of the country, so I can go either direction. Pretty efficiently. So. And
you've been on my radar for a while. I've been wanting to have you here. Always really stuck out to me with some of your flower finishers and the stuff you're working on, and so I really just kind of wanted to get into how that all materialized. How do you even start a company like this? Where do you get your idea? Where did all this come from for you?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic idea, or a fantastic question. I mean, really, where the thought process as far as the whole line. So of course, New Millennium has a full line, right? Reality is people have things that they prefer, specifically bases. That's where people kind of get they get really comfortable with whatever base it is. I mean, whether it's Athena, House and Garden, literally name it, they get comfortable with it.
And every single person has their own opinion on the best one. It's like the old Ford versus Chevy Ford, Dodge, Chevy, Toyota.
Right. And that conversation is never going to cease.
Never.
Right? And to me, I don't even what's the best, man. It really, whether it's genetics, lighting, nutrients, it really depends on your situation, what works best for you and your grow. And whether that's, indoor, outdoor, latitude, the type of lights you're using. I mean, all those parameters, all those environmental parameters, that's going to matter more at the end of the day, and how you manage those parameters for your own particular room than anything else, than having the best of anything. You know what I mean? And I'm also impressed with a lot of the growers that seem to do really well with what would be considered fairly rudimentary these days. You know what I mean? And even things when we have these terms like crop steering put out there. So we've all been doing that. We've just been doing it by hand. You know what I mean? So those thought processes, it's cool to be able to take those ideas and actually put them into practice. But anyway, and I digress.
We've always been doing some form of it. People have wanted to get really hung up on the term crop steering, and I want to learn crop steering. And it's I just feel like it's almost kind of new information. It's so new, and they've seen some dudes crushing it pretty hard, saying that we're coming up with crop steering, or they were kind of the first ones to really push the term and the technology behind it. And I feel like our industry is just so new that people just get excited and they fucking grab onto shit, and then all of a sudden now they're inundated with thinking they have to fucking crop steer, and that's the new thing, and if they're not, their weed's gonna suck.
Right. Which, I believe that there's a million ways to skin this cat.
1,000%.
I think that there's definitely wrong ways to do it, by the way, but I'm not saying that there's any single right way, and I think a lot of people can find success, in a lot of ways. So, as far as the thought process behind, New Millennium as a line, it was meant to emulate a perfect growing environment, which is what we know as a Mediterranean growing environment, something that you find here in California, something you find in Spain, something you find in certain parts of Italy. That's what it was meant to emulate. So that's why you have the spring, summer, autumn, winter, right? So it's not anything about outdoors. It's basically emulating what would be available element-wise as the soils warm up in the spring, right? And you have very small plants, and as they're getting bigger, but really spring is small veg, summer's main veg, autumn's a flower, winter's a finisher. So in the simplest terms, that's how it's set up. So it's really just trying to say, hey, we know what's a perfect growing environment outdoors. We know what's out there growing the best food, the best cannabis, the best whatever. Well, how can we take that inside, knowing that it is an artificial environment, right? Knowing that that's already just part of the deal. So how do we try and inch our way back towards some level of natural, if you will? All mineral based, lots of biostimulants, a lot of interesting chelation technologies, things like that, to get very interesting modes of action. So we, I would say, especially with where the market's at, and again, going back to just people liking what they like, or well, my buddy works for House and Garden, I'm known for, well, that guy's never going to not use House and Garden,
right?
But I bet you I can get him to use Winter.
Right.
On top of it, not change anything else that's going on, and actually see the effects. So I like to tell people I take a very additive based approach, and it's really, hey, how are you doing things? How do you like to do things right now? And then how can I fit things into that situation? Because flipping the script on somebody right now, it's just not going to work. I don't care if it's a home grower or if it's a commercial guy, especially if it's a commercial guy, good luck.
Right.
It's like, I've got to be able to show the differences, prove the differences, whether it's, data driven, which we've been able to see from people like Jack Whipple at the Whipple Effect, which has been awesome to, anecdotally, we've been seeing it, we've been knowing it forever. Oh, these products really, really do work. We put them in people's hands. I don't sell people shit.
Is he based out of Colorado or
no?
Vegas?
He's actually his grow is in Arizona. He's a LA guy, so he's a SoCal guy. Yep, and that's, I believe, where he started his commercial growing. Of course, he's tightly associated. I think he's on the board of directors with Arroyo, tightly associated with Ramsey and that whole situation. So it's been cool to knowing what we knew, but then being able to, like, boom, here's the data as well. And also he helped us, figure out a little bit different way to run it than we had originally advertised it and originally developed
the nutrients in general, the base and everything.
Yeah, he's JR Crop Tech at this point, and so it's basically just the finisher. So Winter Frost and Ruby Fulvic is what he's using the last
on top of Crop Tech.
Yep,
so
exactly.
He's utilizing you as a sweetener, as a ripener, as a finisher.
Exactly. That's exactly. And typically, I mean, we call. I coined the term, years ago, the gateway jug for Winter Frost, because that was like literally the gateway into it. That's how I knew I could, with showing them some flower, because that always matters, and saying, hey, because this is really what's put us on the map. The fact that we're still growers. I can show you the product. Take a look. Let's not even talk products. Take a look at the product first, and then if you want to talk, let's talk. I mean, that jar is sitting, as you can see, pretty crusted up. Has sat in the back of my pocket.
Old school grower right there. You're a real grower when you can't see through the glass jar.
So yeah, I mean, but honestly, it's like that's what got people to go, okay, I'll talk to you now. We went all over the place early on, and it's not an easy thing launching a nutrient company.
So what happened? Like, were you were growing? Obviously, you're from the traditional market.
Yep.
And did something happen where you're like, man, like this just, I know that we could finish better, or we could have like better flavor. Like, what spawned the whole thing for you?
Yeah, and great question. So I work in a lot of the research and development at this point. I'm the international sales manager. The man, the myth behind it all, and originally, and who I work very closely with, is a man named Neil Watson. Neil was with an unnamed 3-part for a number of years, and I think everybody can probably fill in the blanks there. But he's an old school type. He came out of Cal Poly, and he's a big food guy. It's one thing.
Cal Poly's put out some killers when it comes to like nutrients in our industry. People don't really realize that, but Cal Poly put some people on the map. It's right there, Central California, right? Big ag.
Yep. And I mean, so Neil was out there with that company, and then we all kind of got together, and another couple of guys that are partners in the company, and really started saying, hey, let's look at what we have out there currently. Let's take some expertise of some of the association of the people we have, and let's put all this thing together. So again, it was kind of, the impetus and in the beginning of it was definitely Neil and where he was going at, and then we put a team together to really help finish it up, put it to market. I mean, it's like sometimes these formulators, because they're not necessarily growers, trying to really bridge that gap.
Right.
And that's where I came in in a big way, and some of our other people came in and said, hey, how do we bridge this gap? Because in a perfect world, you'd have 28 bottles that you use something different every single week. I mean, you know what I mean? Like in reality, but that's not going to work. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of tweaking. I mean, the line technically came out, we say like 99, but it literally went straight to growers first. There wasn't even a label. It was in a white bottle with names written on it. That was it. And just taking, and how did it go? Well, how did it do? Okay, let's tweak it here. Let's tweak it there. So it took years before we even put it into distribution. We were lucky enough to be in Colorado. Neil relocated to Colorado when the legal market really got going, and so we could put it onto cannabis very, very quickly. And so it truly is a cannabis-specific brand. It has been put on cannabis plants. It has been. I like to say that Neil and really all of us are more applied scientists than anything else. My background is in horticultural food crop production. And so I was running small farms, organic farms. So obviously a ton of respect for the soil food web, a ton of respect for, plant biodiversity and really the true mystery of plants. I like to say all the time, number one, we're not growers. Okay. Plants grow themselves. We're fucking plant janitors. Right?
Yeah.
We're cleaning the plant. We're cleaning the floors. Plant grows itself. They're autotrophs. We're heterotrophs.
Right.
Right. So what they're doing is amazing. They were here before us. They'll be here after us. They don't need our help.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I really like to focus on that because I think it helps you understand really you're just there to help culture the plant and let it do its own thing. I like to say none of our products really put the plant in a headlock, if you will. We don't force anything.
For sure. That's when you get the best results. When you think back to some of those record runs you've had that are perfect, it's could potentially be underfeeding. Your light levels are extremely low, and you had the best fucking production and size and weight, and everything just hits.
Yep. And I mean, even some of these numbers as far as because I was selling Gavitas for a while when that kind of hit the market too, working with Jair and kind of helped put that on the market as well. And it was interesting how the number 1,000 ppms or 1,000 micromoles per second got thrown out, and that was just a number. I'm here to tell you, nature doesn't work in round numbers. Okay, right. And not to mention 1,000 micromoles is the same thing as saying 1 mole. That doesn't sound as cool.
Right. Right.
So,
not
there's
at all. Yeah, dude, this new fixture's got 1.
1, bro. 1. You're like, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
So
let's times that to a 10,000.
Right. It sounds a lot better.
It does.
And a lot of this market is marketing, but this world is marketing. You know what I mean? So you can have a great product, but you still have to market it correctly. You still have to put it in the right people's hands. I mean, I like to tell people, I had my aha moment with these nutrients as well. I'd used many other things that obviously been growing, had been in the world wanting to try a bunch of different things while we were developing this. It was me seeing the direct results and then handing it, I remember giving that when we really got the line together, and I gave it to my cousin the first time, and he takes one look at the bag and he goes, "What the fuck did you do different?" And it's that's what I'm talking about. So since that, it's all about, we knew we were onto something. We knew we had something. Now it's about finding the right people to put it in their hands and let them make it shine. Put it on the right genetics and let it shine. Because again, I don't really sell stuff. I like to put it in people's hands and have them sell themselves, because that's a much stronger emotion.
For sure.
I don't even have an order form when I go into
anytime
places.
Someone just gets those results and then they turn into the mouthpiece for you, that's the best thing. And then at that point also, you're not selling some kind of sleazy thing. It's always better when someone sees those results right away and understands what's happening.
Yep. And again, I don't like I like thinking of myself much more as an educator, you know what I mean? 100%. And putting the information out there and let people do what they want with it. You know what I mean? It's something where I've always, tried to be really free with my knowledge and free with the information and going and helping people, because regardless if it's my product or not, hell, if I'm in a grow store and there's people in there and there's soil getting thrown in the back of a truck, well, I'm loading up the soil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And furthermore, it's I could point out and tell you a good friend of mine that works for every single one of these companies. So I'm not going to go in and step on some dicks.
Yeah.
I'm going to go in, I'm going to try and figure out where I can get my product in there. But, we really like to say that our products play well with others, and that's something I think even in the industry, the guys that we have out there, the guys that we're doing it, it's not, everything is from a positive sales standpoint. It's not about going in and telling somebody they're doing it wrong.
Right.
Because or going and talking bad about somebody else's product.
That's the first terrible notion I have of somebody when they come and tell you that's their sales thing, is man, well, that sucks, or dude, that you're the most terrible fucking person at your job when that's the first thing that you say.
You're right. That's all you have?
Dude, that vehicle, that truck sucks, but you hear that all the time. It's oh, dude, this base is way better. Oh, do you know what you're doing? What kind of crap you're using? It's bro, to come at me and say that
when I'm working hard.
When I'm working hard, I've got banging fucking bags. Like, you make yourself look fucking stupid. Straight stupid.
Yep. And that's why we've really never tried to alienate ourselves in that way. I got a lot of people from a lot of different companies that run our stuff on top of it. And to me, that's a win. If people want to run the whole line, great. If not, no problem. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes people have a little bit of trouble understanding the basis just because it's not that traditional micro grow bloom. But in reality, that's exactly what it is. Equinox is the micro. Spring is grow 1, if you want to call it that. Summer's grow 2. Autumn's bloom. You know what I mean? Right. Winter's a finisher. But they're just named a little bit different. So
without the finisher, it's a 3-part base?
Yep, absolutely. Full set of additives, lightning starts, kelp-based root and shoot initiator, carbonariates, 20 different direct plant extracted sugars. I mean, that one was just to put something out on the market that was more complex sugar-wise than anything else anybody has out there. Great for the organic guys, already broken down in a very simple form, right? So it's already small sugars rather than being like a big sugar chain that's very complex, like, let's say, molasses. Yeah. Nothing wrong with molasses, but the plant has to put a lot of energy to break up those bonds and make it available. Much better to go dump some on your trees, shrubs, things like that, but we deal with annual plants.
Right.
So we want that stuff to be
fast.
Very fast, yeah. We want everything to be super available. I mean, if you think about it, like 60 days?
It's insane.
It's not...
Dude, I tell people, I'm like, dude, all you fucking guys and growers and all this shit, like, we're fucking spoiled. Yeah. For us to be able to go 60 days and have all these notes and be able to make an adjustment. Yep. Could you imagine... like, thinking about outdoor, but imagine indoor, a plant flowered for 6 months.
Right.
You know how many people would just have dead-ass fucking gardens and mold? And
you think about the pest and disease pressure by being alive that much longer? I mean,
indoor growers are spoiled, and I try to, like, I don't think a lot of them realize this, but it's like, for you and, like, the tech that we share and the things we're doing, for you to veg a plant from clone for 2 weeks, flip it, flower for 60 days, potentially have a paycheck with one room 6 times a year.
Right.
Fucking gnarly.
No, it is. And like you said, you can get those multiple generations in 1 year. You get so much information. I mean, you think about something like doing seed trials with food crops. I mean, you're talking, 7 to 10 years out in the field before you're winnowing it down. And it literally starts like a wheat trial would start with about 2 million individual subjects, believe it or not. Like, that's where the seed trial starts. 2 fucking million. So, Crazy. So like we even think about like our, seed hunts, and it's like, we're not really tapping into that when it comes to really, I mean, you got to pop a lot of beans to truly like figure out where that bell curve's at.
Right.
You know what I mean? To really find the outliers, like, you got to pop some beans.
For sure.
Like, you can find stuff in the middle of that curve, no problem. You can do that with a 10-pack, 20-pack, no problem. But if you're looking for true outliers, and that's where I think the industry's at this point. It's genetics. I think it's also about people having their own genetics. I really push for that a lot, right? So the Emerald Cup, wonderful weekend, tons of awesome genetics. But if I take that genetic that was selected here or wherever it was selected, and I take it back to Colorado and I put it in my room that's very different from wherever it came out, is that a guarantee to be a elite for me?
Right.
No.
Right.
And that's why I it's absolutely what's phenotype, genotype plus environment, right? So to get that expression, it's not a guaranteed your room versus my room. So that's why I really like to push for people to select your own stuff. You know what I mean? Get out there, pop beans, find something for your room. Right. And I think that's really important. I don't think enough people think of it like that.
For sure.
But at the same time,
it's a challenging process.
It is. I mean, hell, let's be honest. We're still stuck on the very archaic pounds per square light. What is that?
Right.
That's about biomass.
Right.
Does anybody talk about how big their strawberry plant was when they grew it?
Right.
Or they talk about the strawberries, how big they were, and most importantly, how they taste.
Right.
That's what people. So we're literally like talking about something that's
weird
not
shit
even
happened at like during COVID. I feel like because like that's really when like. I think just before COVID, the crop steering stuff started sprouting out. We got fucking Josh, and Ramsey really spearheading that whole thing.
Yep.
They're over here at fucking NorCal, pumping out fucking baseball bats and water bottles and like putting up insane numbers. And at that time, tickets were still decent. And then going into COVID, tickets blew up for that 2-year process and
spoiled us all.
The crazy thing was like all along I'm like watching this shit and I'm like, this makes no sense to me. I don't understand how any of these things are high.
Right.
And if they're this high, that means they're going to go down this fucking low at some point. This balloon's going to burst. But during that time, everybody like left out, majority. I'm not going to say everybody because there were still some dudes who never fucking jumped on the bandwagon, but a lot of people were all about, how can I do big numbers,
right?
More grams per square foot. How many lights did you get? And it's like, I'm hearing all these questions being asked, and I'm like, dude, none of this shit is relevant to good weed. It's all the wrong fucking questions.
It's you're thinking that, you're literally starting in the wrong direction right off the rip. It should be quality first,
and I don't even know what
second.
I don't like looking back. Like, I don't understand what caused that. Was it the allure of like seeing some of these canopies that they were growing and getting into this substrate? Be honest,
we all saw them and went, fuck.
We did. But at the same time, like,
and when I smoked some of that too, I mean, it didn't smack. It fell short, and so.
And I mean this in no disrespect, but a lot of that flower from NorCal, in my opinion, is mids.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I love the guys over there. Like, I love Sharif, but like, we're going over there to buy mid packs. They do not have the high end flower that we see and produce from other cultivators here.
Right.
Like that's their lane.
Sure. Sure. And I mean, get in whatever lane you're at and be good at it. That's what I'd say. You know what I mean? I'm personally.
That lane is hard.
That lane's very difficult.
That lane is like very, very difficult right now. If you got 1,000 lights in California and you're pumping the fucking $1,100, the $1,200, like, that's a fucking hard lane to be in. It is.
I mean, and we really prefer the quality lane. That, at the end of the day, I know not everybody's my customer, and that's totally fine. It's about me finding the people that really want that phenotypic expression, want to think about genetic potential. Like, we don't even know what genetic potential is, but we know that's what all of us are working towards. Whether it's yield, whether it's quality, whether it's terpene values.
And that's. I don't want to interrupt you, but I was just thinking like how fucking rough that comment I made might have sounded, but it's like there's still a lane for a lot of that stuff in those producers, and so I don't want the audience to seem like I'm coming off and saying, oh, like, mids, and you can't, like, they're the biggest market we have is mids.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, like, literally go into, I don't care.
And mids is not I don't mean mids as in like a disrespectful connotation.
No, it's middle shelf.
Correct.
You know
it's
what I mean?
Affordable middle shelf. It's not that crazy.
Dude, that's
price.
what moves. And you ask any dispenser, like, that's what moves. Good, bad, or different. You can put great weed in there.
That's what moves. That's what every brand that's trying to come out and start something can afford and can make it so that they can sell retail. Like, the mids market is what really keeps this whole machine going.
And, it's very much, commercial cannabis in a lot of ways is tourist weed, right?
Correct.
Because it's something, if you already, like a place like California or Colorado, these are places that people already vacation to, already knew them as cannabis places. And the fact that you can then mix those two together, it's fantastic.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so you look at New York, you look at Florida coming on, look at population, right? And these are places
Florida's
people are
fucking...
It's just gonna be. It's already crazy, and it's just
crazy. Like, I can't imagine what that's gonna be like.
I mean, you got
juggernaut.
So many people there, and it's already a worldwide, international tourist destination. Come on, it's going to be insane.
Yeah.
So that's a tough lane to be in, and I agree. And our lane is quality. It's really expression. It's oil production. It's I again, going back to what part of the plant is of horticultural significance. Is that something we talked about in school? It's right. Okay, on the squash plant, what matters on that? You know what I mean? So it's oil. That's truly what matters on a plant. That's what's of horticultural significance. Whether you decide to consume it with or without the plant matter, doesn't matter. That's still what the horticultural significant piece of the plant is. So by talking about pounds per square light, which is really talking about biomass, that's not really even applicable to me. That's still old school. We should be talking about, and don't get me wrong, some smart kid's going to figure out the right thing, but it's got to be something like percent oil extract per square meter or something. There literally, in my mind, needs to be a totally different convention to truly be able to even put some of these things on different shelves and really prove the worth of a particular product. So
because when we crush it, like, we're doing like 60 on average. Like, if we crush like an exotic strain, like do really, really good with it, even with our under canopy lights, full fucking canopy from the base all the way up, solid color, dude, I'm trying to get like 65 grams a square foot. Like, that's fucking winning on like an epic level. Like, and all this talk, like people make you feel like if you can't do less than 90 grams a square foot, I think that's like a pound per bench, like a pound per foot of 4x bench.
Jeez.
So in a 4x8, you need to produce 8 fucking pounds. Like those are astronomical numbers. Astronomical. And then I see like, the Foch guys saying that they're doing 8 pounds of light or 10 pounds. Like it's just hard to fathom when I've had my biggest, most bangingest rooms produce the biggest I've ever got to personally is like 92, 94 grams a square foot. And that was insane to me.
Right.
And they're like, we do double that with our light. And I'm like, I don't understand how a light can make this plant do anything that more than it's capable of doing.
And there is a point where it's going to level off. More light's not going to do anything.
You start diminishing.
Absolutely,
your
it's
results.
diminishing returns. It's what I think it's 8 to 12 photons, which are individual light packets per CO2 fixed. So obviously that's a situation that keeps going up. But only in C4 plants will you continue to see which is like grasses, corn, things like that, sorghum. Anything else, which is a C3 photoperiodic plant, which is like what we're dealing with, it flattens out fairly quick. You know what I mean? At a certain point, it's saturated. It is what it is. Doesn't matter what you do. More CO2, more light's not going to matter.
How would you, like you were recommending earlier, like this different way of measuring like what you're producing? Like what would that... Like whenever I think of grams per square foot, also that's finished, trimmed.
That's
in the fucking
that's
bag.
In the bag.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which I think there's times where that's fudged a bit. You know what I mean? Without a doubt. Well, in general, a lot of people like to fudge those things, but I think that, and again, something like whether it's oil percentage per square foot, per square meter, something like that. I just think it needs to be something that's more direct to what's the part that's of horticultural
So when you say
significance.
oil measurement, is that like a terpene?
So you could, that would be one thing that you could do. You could do terpene percentages, absolutely. You could just do total extract, you know what I mean? So whether it's washed out, whether it's blasted out, whether it's even something that maybe would be just a sampling even of the crop or something like that, and do a small, some type of small extract run to be able to say, hey, okay, rather than it being this whole 30% bullshit, which we all know is bullshit, which has is the best wine the one that has the most alcohol in it?
Hell no.
You know what I mean? It's like, so that's a whole other freaking discussion.
Do you think we're ever going to be able to break that? Like, it just seems like
know.
over the last few years with new emerging markets, it just gets worse with the new emerging markets. And then even in our market, like it's still, people go in there and they want, what's the strongest?
What's you got the strongest? And even,
I don't understand how we're going to break that.
Different states, you'll even get, there will be a line in the sand, 26%. You get $400 more if it's 26 or over. You get,
it's fucking nuts.
You know what I mean? That doesn't mean it's the best weed.
No.
And so all I can say is education. That's the only way I think to break these cycles is continue to try and educate and educate and educate. But it's a difficult cycle to break.
That's almost like the educating, like trying to tell people like, hey, mixed light is the best flower. Like when they see like some of these exotics that are grown indoor, it's like, you're never going to get something that looks like some of this indoor flower done so extremely well. But like that sun-kissed flower with a mixture of aftermarket light and sun like produces some of the best smoking fucking weed
and I think ultimately that's what we're going to, you want a certain level of control, but you need to harness what's going on.
What's been given to what these plants
what they evolved on. I mean, so that's the thing. Right. I think we've learned a ton from the indoor market. And we know why we went indoors. Everybody got afraid of paraquat and all that shit.
We need more control.
Right.
On our 6 harvests a year.
All of that.
Greedy.
Yeah, it is. And I think that over time you're going to see more and more of these more hybrid type setups. But it's also, man, I've seen guys go from a traditional indoor, go hybrid, and it's like, get ready for that learning curve, bud.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's bad.
Could be the difference of making or breaking your business. It's
Absolutely.
not as easy to just transition in. You're thinking cheaper pounds, easy. Like, no, it's very, very challenging. And every year's different. Every season's different. Equipment failure. You lose heat for one day and you lost an entire fucking greenhouse.
There it goes. I mean, yeah, exactly. You lose, your wet wall goes out, something like that. You come like toast.
It's interesting. People don't talk about it too much, but like, and I could be totally wrong here. This might be a good question for Alex, but when I think of like mixed light and vegetable production, the vegetable production is more forgiving than like you're fucking trying to grow these big buds and these trichomes and these colors, and any little variation goes out and you're fucked. Where we see like Never Sink Farms and some of these farms growing very rudimentary in the East Coast, but like it works really well. Just having a basic covering, they've got a house, the plants are still doing well in the season, they've got their winter vegetables, they've got their spring vegetables, their summer, like the plant has evolved where it does, like the vegetable productions will do a lot more, versus we're in here trying to get these grams per square foot and these color and these trichomes and this flavor, and it's such a different flower.
It is it's definitely,
and we're manipulating the shit out of it
100%. I mean, we've literally it's really originally it's a monoecious plant. We've selected it into being a dioecious plant. So let's just start there, right? So a few thousand years of our association with it, and over time we've selected it out to the point where it's male and female plants. In reality, that's not how it is historically. And given the opportunity, she'll go right back. You know what I mean? She'll go right back real quick. Or if we stress her out in the incorrect ways, things like that, And I like to think about, positive stresses versus negative stresses. Negative stresses are going to do things like, herm plants out, and then you have issues, things like that, but like positive stresses, things like, not getting drybacks, things like that. I would look at that as a positive stress, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what if you go and look in the plant in a dictionary, what's a trichome? It's a plant hair. Well, that's pretty freaking basic. So what's it there for? Well, it's there for a defense mechanism. It's there as sunscreen. It's there as protected from desiccation. It's there to keep it warm. It's like an oil sweater. I mean, we're oil farmers. Right? That's really what we are. We're not, at the end of the day, that's really what matters. And even oil weighs more than plant matter. So that's the other thing. Even not necessarily I would rather have less plant matter, more oil stacked on the plant matter, and it always weighs. You know what I mean? It's like, I still grow that original GG4 that I've had, since it came out in the LA Cup, and it's funny because every time it's like, it doesn't look like it's all that much. Put it on the scale. Because the oil's there. Same thing with GMO. Put it on the scale, baby. You know what I mean?
The fuck down. That shit's like an oil producer.
Yes, exactly.
Boy, did the hash industry just fucking gang rape GMO.
Wow. I mean, to be fair, we did find like one of the best washers out there, and it is probably my favorite extract. I mean, a really good GMO extract, whether it's rosin, whether it's BHO.
What does GMO stand to you? There's a lot behind that.
Nut, garlic, mushroom, onion, apparently. Which I bought into that originally because that's what I heard, and I was like, kind of makes sense.
You're like, it smells like these three ingredients in a fucking garbage disposal.
From what I understand, it's more it grew like a GMO, so that's why they call it. So it just
like
grew
corn,
like a weed.
just wild. It goes fucking nuts.
Yep. So that's that, and I think that's probably the accurate story. But hell, I didn't select it. You know what I mean? I don't know. But it seems to check out. I've had that. The original GMO from Michigan for a long time too.
Is that where it came from?
Yeah, it came from Michigan originally. Yep.
Really?
Yep, absolutely.
Who bred that?
I want to say that was. Oh man, I'd have to even think who bred it, and then I want to say it was. Did Gromer actually? He might have been who selected it. I don't know. It was definitely.
Did it come from like a caregiver then?
I believe so. Yeah. I'm trying to think. It was. I can't even remember who did the original ChemD Cookies cross. It's definitely a company you'd know, but it's not overly popular necessarily. Yeah. And I want to say it might be a Spanish company or something like that, to be honest with you. But it's, I think the genetic game has been really interesting to see. I think we've got a little bit of a polyploid issue going on. We've really reduced the genetic diversity within our cannabis pretty significantly at this point. And kudos to some of the people that are going back and looking at land races. And really the reason that matters is just to keep the genetics within the biome, right?
Well, if you think about it,
or the genome,
how strong those land races are. Like, we're just breeding all that shit out of them by breeding 100%. With hybrids and shit that fucking herms.
Absolutely.
And we're going away from the strength of the plant. We're like weakening it, hoping for the best. And then pounding it under all these crazy fucking parameters that we do.
Yep. And the thing is the reality is you cannot just create plant genes out of nowhere. The reason we have places like Svalbard or some of these other big, genetic storage facilities is because we know we can't go back and get it. So we have to store it if we need to use it in the future. Even things like the potato famine, how did they go and figure that out? They had to go back to Peru where there was still, I think, something like 2,000 different varieties of potatoes grown, right? So you have to go back to the place of origin to be able to grab those genetics. And as things die out and you lose biodiversity, you flat out lose genes. It's gone. It's not coming back. Even I want to say one of the, I think it was a storage facility in Liberia or something like that got bombed, with one of these recent, last couple of year bullshit. Had some of the best, dry land food crop varieties were all stored there.
No way.
Gone. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The biggest facility in the world is Svalbard. It's in Greenland.
That's the one built into the glacier, right?
Yeah.
See.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
And that's why it's there. I mean, again, if there's
who's going to war and dropping bombs out there on the glacier.
Right. So, you gotta keep the genes. You gotta go back. So, kudos to the guys that are working to bring some of that stuff back out. And I think it's just to get that vigor back in the gene pool is really important. So, but yeah, no, it's been a whirlwind these last couple of years. I mean, like you said, that 2-year pandemic was like something we'd never seen in the weed world, and then it just went from. But again, like you said, that's that pendulum swing, right? If you went that high, it's come back that low.
For sure.
Do I think that 23 is going to be a better year for all of us? I do. I don't think that less people are consuming cannabis. I think maybe they're consuming less cannabis because they're not at home as much, or there's not, I think that there's some factors out there that people are tight on finances at this point as well. I think inflation has a bit to do with it. But at the end of the day, it's supply and demand, and the unit price is down, so people turn lights off. If it doesn't become worth doing, they turn lights off.
Now, we know, we don't have to be quiet about it, but we know that tons and tons of flowers going out the back door.
Yeah, it has to.
In California, Michigan, I don't know what Colorado's like. I've never been out there, but any other state I've gone to with licensed work and stuff, it definitely, and California especially, with how many few retails we have compared to licenses.
Right.
I mean,
how is it going to work any other way?
We've seen firsthand 75-80% of stuff getting destroyed or going out the back door, and obviously that has an effect on pricing and
of course
everything else. We have yet to see California draw the sand in the line and start actually enforcing.
No.
And I imagine, I'm just guessing, but at some point we have to see enforcement, right? They can't just keep allowing this cowboy style fucking pull the van up, throw everything out the back door you got 1,000 lights and you produce, fucking half a pound of light. You know what I mean? At some point, I imagine something has to happen with the enforcement.
Yeah, I would think so. I think that Colorado being the first one, it definitely has had its backdoor days. There's no doubt about it.
But did we ever see an enforcement? I don't ever remember any kind of. Did it just kind of work its way out?
It kind of worked its way out. I mean, Oklahoma kind of worked its way out for a lot of things. So that really stole Colorado's black market in general as well.
I mean, it stole everything.
Yeah, it stole everything.
The prices we were hearing, and they don't even give a fuck about exotics and shit out there. It's it doesn't matter this cut I have or that. Oklahoma was its own world.
I mean, so there was this, and this is a true story. This bar had something like 10,000 milligrams in a single chocolate bar, right? This edible.
10,000?
10,000. I mean, just and it had a big donkey. It's tastes like shit, but it'll kick your ass or something.
Bro, I'll never forget eating that. Was it Kova, the 1,000 milligram brownie? I remember laying over the toilet praying to God that I'll never smoke again if I could come out of this. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't even know about that's when you're interrogating someone. You're look, dude, you're gonna eat this right now.
Right. It's
we're gonna fuck your head up.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I remember wanting the strong edible early on too, and it's just nodding out like a fucking heroin addict.
Nodding off. You're sick. You're throwing up.
Oh, I remember making some Rick Simpson oil one time, and I made the mistake of licking my fingers. Completely fucked. I'm God, this shit is strong. But I mean, I'm more of a flower smoker anyway. I mean, we're dinosaurs. Anybody that's smoking big fat joints is.
I must have smoked a QP to my head this weekend.
Golly, it was. Yeah, there was lot of good herb going around. That's for sure. It was really good to see, just to see the industry. I mean, is it changing? Absolutely. But I also think that a lot of the people that help build this are still there, and I think it's one of those things that it's going to work itself out. And I think we just got to stay the course. I mean, I like to liken it to a restaurant. What is it? 90% of them go out in the first year.
Yeah, they do.
And nobody bitches about that. Well, why did the place go out on the corner? I never did go there. Well, that's why it went out.
Dude, it's so funny you brought up restaurant. Like every day I think about like restaurants and I'm like, man, thank God, like I'm not in the restaurant business. I don't get up every morning to go cook a bunch of fucking food. You have a $20 plate. You're hoping you can make $12 on it. Order enough food where like you're not throwing shit away. It's not going bad. Your food's good enough where people come in. And every single day you have to put out fire plates, or they put a review on Yelp that says you suck.
Right. No, like, that is such a ruthless world. And I agree with you. I have, I'm very thankful that I'm not in that
we have
world.
a bad batch.
Yeah.
Like, who knows who gets sold? Nobody's gonna know it's mine.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Your burrito gets fucked up, and like you're serving bad food.
Yep.
You know?
No, it's a tough world out there, and even here in Santa Rosa, I mean, you can just tell downtown.
Restaurants we have though, it's fucking.
It's
nuts.
crazy. It's crazy.
Everywhere I travel, I'm like, Jesus Christ, Sonoma County has more food establishments than. I mean, maybe I visited 10% of them, if that, maybe less probably.
Right.
It's crazy how much food is in Sonoma County.
It is. And for the record, I've had a bunch of great food while I've been here this weekend. It's
sure.
But it's also competitive.
Everybody's competing for that fucking customer and that plate of food. And
Right.
It's cutthroat.
It's very cutthroat. And the thing is, if people don't have, the expendable income that they once had, it's like that just, all of a sudden, everything just kind of moves away from that. You know what I mean? Everything very quickly, unfortunately, moves away from, going out and socializing, things like that. Throw kids in the mix, and it's like, which those little fuckers are expensive, let me tell you.
Right.
I got two of them little bastards. So, it's, but again, I think that everybody can take lessons from where we've been at and be positive in the fact that we are still here, keep grinding, stay the course. You know what I mean? I feel like we've done a really good job of being able to fit ourselves in, you know what I mean? And not take the approach of, you've got to use all my stuff or you're doing it wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, let's just not do that. Enough people have tried that.
For sure. That doesn't work.
That doesn't work.
You have to have something that will work, stand alone, but obviously you can adapt with everybody so you're not isolated.
Yep, absolutely. So, and I know we definitely sent over some winners, so, we could put some in some people's hands. It's definitely seeing is believing.
I mean, I'm going to hoard all of it. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. Like, I'm not sharing with nobody. Like, Alex and I are putting in another doser, and
excellent.
We're rocking. We're super excited.
Perfect. If people do have questions about a little more specific how to use it, we were talking, before we fired up, Jack kind of helped us even pioneer a little bit more of
so let's go back to that. Like, did you make the base? Did the company start out by making the base at first?
Yep. So it was made as a full line basis with additives. The only product that came in last was the Carbonaria. That was the final product that came in. So it was set up as a full line. Originally we really tried to push the full line, but man, that's a tough road to hoe.
It is.
That's a tough road to hoe. So I started looking at it and going, well, how can we market this a little bit better? If I can get one product in and get somebody to believe in it, then they're going to come back and ask for the next one. And that's where the whole gateway jug concept came in, because I used to always call it the gateway drug, right? I think I sent a couple of the Dare shirts.
We got them.
So, but that was like my kind of ha-ha. Yeah. And I was like, I'll never put that on a shirt. We want to still be halfway PC, tongue in cheek, fine. But so I was driving to pick up my mom one day, and it just popped into my head. I was like, gateway jug. I was like, that's fucking it. And so that's been a really, really good campaign for us, because I think it also helps people to understand, like, oh, I don't have to change everything.
Right.
I can just put this in. Historically, you run winter either standalone or with our fulvic acid ruby, nothing else. All bases go away. Think of it as a pre-flush. So it'd go in the second to last week. So if you're a traditional 8-week guy, do whatever you want through 6, winter and or ruby, week 7, flush week 8, harvest. You get more oil.
Replaces your base.
So
you're
then
strictly using the two of them.
Strictly using the two of them.
At that point, you're 2 weeks out. You're starting to drop your EC. Let's say your LED, you're going to start being at like
2.5,
Correct.
2.0. So you're just going to run these at even parts, or
no? So it'll be it's 10 mils a gallon on the Winter Frost, 5 mils a gallon on the Ruby, and you get it's only about 0.5 EC. It's only about 250 ppm. So it's definitely you're full gas. You're pulling it back. Still got a little bit of food in there. Ruby, being a 9-source fulvic acid, will continue to help make available anything that's in the substrate.
Already in there.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not just going full to nothing. So they're not going to crash off like that. You still got the Ruby's still working for you.
So if you like running a little higher EC, do you still recommend going against the base and just jacking these up?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that, because that's so traditionally we always thought of as a standalone pre-flush. You do your traditional flush, which is, and I hate to have to say this, but I go around the country enough, flush just means not adding nutrients, or at least when I say flush, that's what I mean. It's not the old school Jorge dumping gallons and gallons through your substrate shit. Some places in the country still get confused on that.
Looking for that 75% runoff.
so just not adding nutrients, right? Now, people like Jack and Ramsey and some of these steering guys definitely run hard all the way to the end. A lot of Athena guys will run 3.0 straight to the end. And in fact, even so Jack kind of helped us get to a point where we do run it alongside it, right? And we run it the last 10 to 14 days. And because they're not really doing a flush, it's the last 10 to 14 days, then harvest. Using at the same ratio of 10 mils a gallon winter, 5 mils a gallon Ruby. But what you are going to do is drop the base back a bit. So if you're running at 3.0, drop it in half to 1.5, throw on the winter Ruby, which bumps you up to that 2.0, and finish it out from there, 10 to 14 days.
Nice.
Yep. So really easy to put into any scenario. Hell, I even have a bunch of no-till guys. Why? Because you can't turn the microbes off. Right. You know what I mean? If you're in beds or some type of regenerative soil situation or whatever, they're still cracking along. So to get that senescence response initiated, which is really what winter does. It does two things. It initiates senescence. That's a natural ripening process. Happens in any annual plant. We just get to say when it happens. Number two, it makes
that basically the ingredients of that triggers that effect, basically.
Correct. Exactly. That is the mode of action. It's triggering senescence, and that's why people go, well, there's not a lot of food in it. Well, that's not what
it's about. It's not about the base. It's not what it's trying to do.
It's not what it's trying to do.
We're really triggering the finishing of the flower.
Absolutely. And that's why you get those additional colors. Now, is it God? No, it's not going to create purple where purple's not, right? We work with the genetics that are in there, help crack that open. Again, genetic potential, right? That's really what we want, is that expression, that potential, and trying to drive, as far as we can towards that point. Not really even knowing what that point is.
Winter Frost with my under canopy lights, turn it purple. Solid purple.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
Yep.
You motherfuckers out there struggling, we got the 1-2 combo.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really does. You are going to see, and literally the heads get bigger.
Because that's what these under canopy lights I'm coming out with, they're pushing like 90% red.
Oh, yeah.
Like everything that I thought lacked, and like, I'm talking LEDs across the board.
Sure.
When I started growing with LEDs, I was not getting the consistency as I used to get with like HPS, where I'd get like a deep color penetration in the canopy. It'd be like green and then purple, and these are purple strains.
Right.
And no matter what we did, we couldn't
prune it up far enough.
Solid colors out, and we're separating bags. And like, dude, the moment we fucking added 90% more reds, dude, changed everything.
Yep.
All it did was benefit the overhead light and allowed the whole plant the feeling that it's processing it, and it uses it where it needs to, and it turned the entire fucking underneath middle dark purple.
I'll be honest, I've been running those Thrive Agritech underlights for a few years now. I got a couple samples of them. Immediately I was convinced, fucking 15% easily additional production, and again, it just finished through the plant a lot better.
Now the one thing about the Thrive is and I love those dudes. They're a technology company.
Yes.
They're pure technology. They don't even look at themselves as like a lighting company, which is crazy.
It is.
And all of these under canopy lights were always built for veg. They're all veg lights. They're low wattage, high producing veg lights. So I was inspired by Thrive. So I used their lights immediately. 25% more weight.
Yeah.
It was obvious.
Yes.
But the fucking color was
still
way off. Like you could just see it. Like we were seeing manipulation in the buds, and like we were getting vegetative responses and hues. And I'm like, okay, so I know for a fact the light works. I'm getting 25% more production.
Yeah, that's easy.
But
I'm still not where I want to be for quality and color. And immediately the only place that I went is, look, the wattage is right because you're getting the power you need, you're getting the yields. We have to change the spectrum.
Makes sense.
And that's where we came out with the Craft Farmer Under Canopy Light. It's 80% red. It's specifically for flower. You do not use it in veg. It's not made for vegging.
Awesome.
It is strictly an Under Canopy flower light you turn on at like day 14.
Yeah, man. Once you guys got that up and rocking, I'd love to throw
have it in January.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I'd love to play around with it. I am excited about some of the new lighting technology. I feel like we kind of like... and then kind of, and now it's like we're really looking at these things like UV, like additional red,
but
like
still, when you go to like when I was at BizCon, like it blew me away how many lighting manufacturers there still are.
It's insane.
And I've tried so many lights that people like in the beginning. I remember they're like, oh, you'll give me a light, great. It's $1,000 fucking dollars. I want to outfit this room. Every light someone gave me, I shit the bed with.
Right.
Something was wrong with this light. And then I realized I can't be a fucking guinea pig any longer. No. I don't want anything for fucking free.
You're like, I'll fucking buy it. I just want to buy what I'm going to buy.
And every time you got an inbox, you got someone from China. Oh, this is our new light. It's like, no, dude, I don't want to test nothing. I'm not into it.
Nope. And that's what's tough in this world, right? Getting people to go and try something new. You know what I mean? And it's really, especially now, it's not the easiest thing, which again, path least resistance, additives,
but that's what I like. What did you call it? The gateway
gateway jug, yeah.
I mean, the reality is like one thing that no matter what you're thinking or what you're on or what your opinion is, I think we can all come together and be like, yeah, we want riper flower, we want sweeter flower,
we want more color, we want more oil, we want individualization in our strains.
So we can all come out and say that, and that's why having that conversation around a sweetener, and then let's say you break that ice, and then you're like, hey, well, you might want to check this out. It's going to only benefit that too. And hey, if this is all you want, that's all.
Cool. Exactly. No problem.
And that's how I've been. Like when it comes to business, like I think I'm a fucking killer sales guy, but that's not the approach I want to take.
No.
I'll remember the old fucking Kirby vacuum days. It was the first job I had into Santa Rosa, and
that's like, hilarious. I worked for Kirby.
That was, dude, it was rough, bro. I was getting chewed up and spit out every day, and I'm like, dude, I don't want to be this guy trying to sell fucking $1,500 vacuum in payments, and it sucks sand out of your fucking carpet harder than anything else, and it'll shampoo, and it's like, who the fuck is going to do this to their house? You call the shampooer. But when you come to me and you're like, hey man, I got this 10 and I just want some drippers, I'm not going to what do you want?
Right.
Like, I'm not going to try to give you anything else.
Right.
I got too much other shit going on. I don't want to be fucking sold on shit.
No.
You know?
No.
And that organic relationship always leads to other things or respecting you where they're going to come to you in the future and ask you questions or what do you think about this or so.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, honestly, and I'm sure you do too, I get a million different questions about all kinds of shit that I have no fucking association with. But at the same time, like, that's, to me, it's just part of it. You know, that's part of, you know, I'm a relationship builder more than a salesperson.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's even part of being out, you know, in like places like the Emerald Cup, continuing to, you know, be out there and continuing to meet new people and keep connections going with, you know, with other people. I mean, we're going to be out on the road real hard, you know, the first 6 months of next year. The same distribution company that distributes New Millennium will be distributing Dutch Lighting Innovations, which is that new UV light. 150 watts. It's got UV A, B, and C with it. Meant to be run in conjunction with HPS.
Who makes it?
Dutch Lighting Innovation. So literally, that's just Gavita. That's all the same engineers. They literally are in the same facility in Ozmere that they were when it was Gavita days. Obviously, Gavita was a brand similar to like Can Fan, right? That's actually a Ruck fan, German-made fan, great fan.
I've heard that.
Yeah. So that's the same thing. So that they're manufacturing Gavita. Obviously, is not manufactured in the same place. All those same engineers over time, including Jair. He just came on board basically right before Vegas, is DLI at this point. So full suite of, you know, and I'm seeing a lot more HPS going out there. I will say that. It's interesting, like kind of even the LED HPS.
What do you mean by going out? Like out like being unplugged or?
No, I mean like people are going back to running them. I mean,
that's because they've struggled so hard with LED. Like,
exactly.
And it's really interesting. We still hear the conversation. We hear a lot of people that we respect are like, dude, there's no way that LED will ever produce what HPS is and this and that. And then like someone who has, we run hundreds and thousands, you know, a lot of HPS lights. We've got partners of ours that run HPS, and you show them our, like when we show them our bags like that we've grown ourselves, they're like, bro, this isn't this is an LED weed. Like they don't even want to believe you. So,
right.
But it's been a 2-year learning curve.
That's a thing. It wasn't something you just turn on.
You can't go unplug these fucking lights out of your room and replace with LEDs. You got 50 tons of AC. Your ACs are smashing and rising, and these, and it's just, you can't just swap a light one for one. And like, even like when Gavita's claiming 1 for 1, like that doesn't match up with all the engineering and the dehumidification and the heat.
It only matches up from a light output standpoint.
That's what I think a lot of people don't really know. And even when, like, just recently, for the first time, I got to see a room that had all 1930s in it, and it was I was shocked how white the light was. I really saw very little red in that, and like I walked in and it looked like a bedroom to me, and I'm like, man, like I just see so much red lacking in a lot of these LEDs.
Right. And if you really think about it, I mean, just think about it. Where's the sun at in the middle of the summer? It's directly above you, right? As it starts dropping into, you can see that it's a yellower light as it's dropping into autumn. Why wouldn't we want that part of the spectrum in there? Obviously.
Because I think they're fighting for output in a fixture.
Yep.
And the more you give to the red, the lower the output of the light, because the red is not as bright as the white.
And they're more expensive.
So there's expensive.
Yeah, so there's a whole, and not to mention, so for the longest time, I was always like, what is the price difference in LEDs? And I really could not get a solid answer. It's not about the driver. It's not about whether it's a Samsung diode or some other diode. It has nothing to do with it. Really what it has to do, and people can look this up, it's called LED binning. Like a bin, BINNING. What they have is they have large machines that everyone goes through and it's checked for color, clarity, and it's put into an individual bin. All Samsung diodes, but the top bin is the most expensive diodes. The bottom bin are the cheapest diodes. And the reason they group them together like that, so you don't have 8 different colors coming out of one LED. So they're trying to get consistency and price. So the cheaper ones are obviously cheaper. That's what's going to go into a cheaper unit. Still whatever Samsung diode or whatever it is, but it just may be out of a lower quality bin. But it also, again, is so that it matches up.
Is the red diode more expensive than the white?
Yeah. Yep.
That's one thing I noticed. Like, I don't know a whole lot about lighting and all this shit. Like I'm a fucking grower first and foremost. And like when people are like, well, what's your style of like plant knowledge? it's plant speaker. Right. I'm not a book guy. I can't sit in a fucking circle and talk with PhDs about plant science and all this other shit. Just put me in my garden and I will fucking smash it.
Sure.
And I'll fix problems that you have.
Right.
Like when I made this light, it was a lot more expensive than I was anticipating, and it was because of that red spectrum. Yeah. You know, and everyone's like, well, fuck, your price per watt is a lot more than anything overhead out there. And it's like, well, my light's 90% red.
Right.
And so I need to get 100 watts out of it at red. It just costs this much. I don't know what else to say about it.
Right.
What I can tell you is you spend $600 on 300 watts with me, and I'm going to give you a pound of overhead light. So it's going to pay for itself dividends.
Yeah, quickly.
Is it the most expensive light on the market? Unfortunately, like when I started, because people started hitting me up, they're like, oh, fuck you, your watts per blah, blah, blah. And I'm like thinking, I'm all fucking high. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's like the 12th message where like,
you're like, all right, I got to look into
me
this.
On blast, and like started looking in. And it's like, fuck, dude, I can't, it's all red. I can't get it any cheaper.
Right. If that's what you're going for, that's what you need. That's the product that you wanted.
It has to have those fucking, it has to have those special diodes. It has to have those, like, if it doesn't have these certain things that people are so used to getting, they're like, oh, this motherfucker's bringing in some junk, you know?
Well, right, and that's the thing, and you're putting your name on stuff, so it's like, you got to be careful with that.
IP66 rated. It's going at the bottom of your canopy.
Yep.
Fucking has my face on the side of it.
Right. I mean, you have, dude, that's the thing. You got to be, and you know, it's social media. People are ruthless these days, and they're fucking, you know, they're on you like that, you know? So it's definitely, it's stressful putting your name on anything, you know, in this market. I mean, unless it's just, you know, good weed.
Right.
Check that out.
What's this right here?
So I've got, there's a little bit of unicorn poop in there, which is a GMO cross. Speaking of GMO cross, I think that's on the top. Then there's some Crown OG, and then there's some Gary Payton in there as well. So I usually like to bring the multiple varieties too, because I like showing that difference. Like I could bring my one hitter strain, right? And everybody's, oh, you just brought your best strain. So I like to bring a few just to show that, you know, that the morphology difference. You know, if it's a sandy trichome, it's going to stay a sandy trichome. It's not going to all of a sudden be gooey.
Bring green weed back.
Right? No doubt. I mean, that's you know.
Are you guys like? Do you see this whole weird ass shit in Colorado with like
not as extreme?
And all this.
The only place.
If you want to sell a pound in California, that shit better be purple. It's crazy.
Black. Let's be honest.
Fucking nuts, dude. What's happening?
The only place in the country that it's that extreme. People like purple. Don't get me wrong, but that's not. Yeah. Not like it is here, man. It's crazy on the West Coast. It's got, not only that, a lot of times people like that pack load ass out look. You know what I mean? And it's just like they're just fucking used to that look and that kind of, you know what I mean? Where they can like knock it on the wall, and it's just like
that's when someone doesn't have your money, you can knock them out with your fucking pack. You know what I mean?
Pretty much. So, you know, I mean, I think that's what continues to give us success is being out there, beating up the road, getting in front of growers, putting products in people's hands, letting them see the difference, showing people that hey, we're still growers, we're still out here, we're still doing this. We're part of the industry. We've always been part of the industry. You know, there's just, I mean, when I started this, you pretty well had to be a grower to get a job in the grow shop, to get a rep job, anything like that. And it's crazy how few people grow now.
Who's the distribution company that you guys use?
It's a 5.8 distribution, so it's PHIVE 5.8 distribution.
Are they out of Colorado too?
Denver. Yep.
And so with the distribution company, I've always wondered this: like, are you looking for them to put a specific amount of work into your brand as well because you are giving them the distribution rights?
Yeah, absolutely. Now they're a small independent as opposed to like getting lost in a catalog like Hydro Farm or Sunlight or something like that. So they've got very specific brands that are all quality brands. So it's literally Dutch Lighting Innovations, Playground Nutrients out of Holland, which is more your AB style, substrate specific Dutch style. You know, the New Millennium, which is the sole American brand. Ruck Fans. We do a silicic acid as well. There's a few other things, but yeah, it's a very calculated and direct distribution company as far as what they're carrying.
Nice.
We're not going to have ratchet straps and this and that and all that bullshit.
They're focused on the few products that they select and allow into their catalog.
Absolutely. So because of that, just by nature of that and having a few products, you're going to be, you know, featured up at the top pretty easily, you know, as opposed to like, hey, you want to make sure that the boys at BFG are making sure to talk about your products and you know what I mean? And shit, so many of those companies have 8 or 10 different nutrient lines in there. So then as a manufacturer rep, you got to put your manufacturer reps out there to go on the road with your distribution reps to make sure it's, you know, so we've got a good close working relationship with 5.8, some of the same people, you know, kind of crossover. So yeah, it definitely works well. And you know, we prefer independent and distribution that doesn't get watered out. We like exclusivity is kind of where it's at.
I mean, that's important. You know what I mean? Especially protecting your brand and what you're doing. And you know,
and I mean, we've depended. I mean, you know, not calling Athena out because they've done so many amazing things when it comes to from a marketing strategy, and what they've been able to do is really. Nobody else has been able to do that, you know, so you really got to give them the respect. We're kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, kind of more, you know, grassroots, depending on people putting the word out, you know, not a lot of money in advertising. Most of it's put, you know, boots on the ground and just reinvested in the company. And
I think when you look at a lot of those companies that Jungle Boys has been influential in, it's pretty amazing, like what they did. Like when you look back at like, remember what they did for Veg Bloom? Oh, yeah. They blew Veg Bloom up. Blew that up. Floraflex. Blew Floraflex
Yeah, I mean, look where Floraflex is at now. I mean, dude, like, whoa.
Here's what's crazy to me about Floraflex. Those motherfuckers will, like, be like, oh, we're making Floraflex tie wire. Like, how much money are you going to make on tie wire? Like a fraction of a fucking penny?
Right.
Like, Floraflex has turned into, like, let's manufacture any fucking thing. And, like, in my mind, I'm like, I want to be a specialist.
Sure.
Those motherfuckers have, and dude, they did some amazing shit. Like with their expanding pots and pucks that fill in hard plastic pots and their drain. Like, so they've done some really amazing shit. And then you see them doing like you're making wire tie and yo-yos. And
right.
How does that
there's got to be
how does that make any money for you? Like, how do those and they've got this mindset and I don't know, I'm just watching, but like they want to pick up every single penny. I don't want to pick up pennies.
No.
I'd rather keep walking and find a quarter every once in a while.
Right. And I'd say that's where we're at as well. I mean, I do not believe everybody is my customer, right? And there's a customer out there for everybody. Not everybody's mine. It's got to be a certain person that's actually looking for the same goals that I have.
Right.
So the quicker I can figure that out, if somebody comes and say, hey, what is the price per gallon? Have a nice day. You're not my guy.
Right.
I mean, if that's really where your head's at to begin with.
No, if you're just trying to get and that's the same thing for me. Like if you're trying to get the best price, if you're trying to get this, like I'm the wrong fucking guy.
Yeah, it's out there.
I'm probably going to be the higher price,
yep.
But I answer the phone, me personally, anytime you fucking call, whenever there's an issue, like I'm a different provider.
Sure. And I'd say the same. People are always blown away. Whoa, it's you that answered the email. It's you that called me back.
For sure.
Yeah, man, I do whatever needs to be done around here. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's, allowed us, because you can't just develop that relationship and then disappear, right? It's like that you still have to have the back end of that, right? And the back end of that is support, is technical support, is being available. You know what I mean? That takes a lot. You know how it is. You know how the freaking DMs come in, the emails come in. I mean, it's a lot going on, but I wouldn't trade. I'd rather have a lot going on than nothing going on. 1,000%. And unfortunately, there's some people that don't have anything going on right now.
Sure.
So, I feel blessed. We're a brand that has a lot of room to grow. I think some of these more established brands that came into COVID and came into specifically this kind of post-COVID era.
For sure.
Man, it's really about customer retention for them.
Right.
Which that's a tough place to be right now. You know what I mean? For us, we have lots of room to grow.
I've weathered some nasty storms in the past. Like seeing what's happening now, to me, it's not that bad. You know what I mean?
It happens. I mean, was it much more extreme based on many factors? Yeah, sure. And again, but I never really thought about it like that. Being on that high, it was equal and opposite. You know what I mean?
For it to go every day.
It's and it definitely happened. I think we all got, including myself, got a little spoiled. Felt good. Things were rocking. But again, we're on a different trajectory than some of these other brands that have been around there longer, and I think that's a much better place for us to be.
Right.
So no, we're going to keep rocking it. Like I said, I'm excited for you to use some of the products. Excited for some of your people to check it out. And it's always I had it described to me one time when I was a podcast of basically being like, this is almost like I'm coming into your church, right? This is your congregation. These are your people, right? So like bring and the same thing. So you have to be careful about what products you endorse, much less sell.
Sure.
So I very much appreciate coming on and allowing me to come and do the sermon today.
And then with that being said, like for our customers, where do they find you?
So they can find me. Thank you. They can find me on Instagram. It's really easy. It's JERIN_H_. Jerin at nmgardens.co is my email. Like I said, I'm out there. I'm attainable.
And what's the new Millennium page?
New Millennium page is it's just at New Millennium Nutrients.
We'll put all that in the description and
awesome.
Everything. And then again, for those of you just looking for a little extra flavor, terp profile, sugar content, we're going to document everything that we're doing on the
Excellent.
Patreon with it. It's again, like this could just be something that benefits what you're already doing. Like at this point, I try to tell people like, once you get to a certain level, everything is like baby steps.
Yep.
Like to continue to get better and to continue to have better flour and just not going back the opposite way. It's very important to make these super minor adjustments, and this could be an adjustment that benefits for you greatly. So thank you so much, Jerin, for coming out.
Absolutely.
New Millennium Nutrients, Craft Farmer Podcast, cut the check. It's been great. We love you guys. Talk to you later.
Thanks, guys.